All right, are we live? Are we live, everyone? Hey, hey, hey. This is great. Happy New Year. You may or may not be like, what is going on with Christina's background? I'm in Arizona today, as is Carmen. I'm looking directly at her.
Yeah.
We're both in Arizona for an offsite, and it is warm. So if you're from a cold climate, I want to know. I want to know where you're coming from. Are you from like the north? Is it snowy where you are? If you
Mm,
are a part of a cold climate, where are you coming from? Canada, the States? We want to know.
mm, yeah.
I'm from Toronto. Carmen, tell us where you're coming from as well. It's not today, but in general.
Well, I live in Toronto, and on Sunday I was coming back from my daughter's competition, and it was so snowy, so windy. And to be totally honest, I'm never in sunny places, so I'm just gonna like brag here for a
Oh my
sec.
gosh.
Check out those palm trees. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty rare for me.
There's like nothing like cacti. I freaking love cacti, cactuses, whatever, whatever the proper grammar is.
Yeah,
Cries
I've
in
learned a lot about
snow.
them. Yeah.
Well, we're so excited for today. It's obviously our first social club of the year. That's a mouthful. Try saying that. Social club, social club. It's our first social club of January. We have some amazing panelists and some guests joining us today to kind of kick off the year. We have an awesome topic. But I did want to do some housekeeping before we kind of get into it. And before I even actually get into housekeeping, Carmen, I want you to intro yourself. She's going to be leading the conversation. Carmen, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, Christina told me about 3 minutes ago that I was going to do an intro for myself. So I've had a ton of time to prepare and think about how I want to talk about myself. But I'm Carmen. I'm the new, I mess it up. I think social and content lead here at Slate. I just joined a month ago. Very excited to be here. Having a social team after being a party of one for so long has been such a nice transition. And yeah, I don't know. I think if I had to sort of like give you the Coles notes on me, I've worked in social for almost 15 years. And
Fun fact.
fun fact, oh gosh, we did fun facts last night and I can't share the one that I shared then. But
Yeah, fair
anyways,
point.
okay. I'm going to hone in on this call. Basically, what I would say is that excited to be here. I like thinking about all of the behind the scenes that goes into making social really good and really complex. And I think that my mission is really to show what a nuanced, interesting, intellectual role it is to work in social. So
Love.
excited to tackle this month's topic. And I'm going to stop talking because
Yeah,
I am nattering. Go,
that's
Christina.
okay. Great intro. Thank you, Carmen. That was so well done. Okay, so for housekeeping, if you do want to ask questions during this conversation, as you can see, there is a question and answer box. This is your way of volunteering yourself to come off mute. We're going to have live question and answer period 10 minutes before the convo is over. This convo is about an hour long. You'll have time to ask your questions. We may not get to all of them, but we love hearing from you guys, of course. And if you do ask a question, you'll be entered into a giveaway where we're going to give away a gift card or a t-shirt, which is super fun. We're pumped about that. And yeah, we're just like excited to have you all here. There might be a lot of new people here, and this webinar is hosted by Slate, obviously, and Slate is on a mission to empower social media teams. We're an all-in-one content creation tool, and we want to be the home for brands. So if you want to learn more about Slate, obviously you can message me or Cameron after that as well. Another thing is this session is going to be recorded and it will be in your inboxes tomorrow morning. So if you're like, I have to tap out, I hope you don't tap out because the ending and being a part of this whole conversation is great, but it will be in your inbox tomorrow. And then of course, we're going to have a giveaway at the end. So stay tuned. If you do ask a question, don't leave. All right. Who's pumped? I want to hear you in the chat. Where are you coming from? What company? Where are you located? What time is it for you? And as you guys are chatting, I'll be in the chat as well. And I'm going to let Carmen take it away. We're so pumped. Carmen, have a great time. And I'll see you all at the end of the conversation.
Okay. So today we're talking about the science behind creativity. And I think a fresh new year is an excellent time to tackle this kind of topic because, slide decks are due. We're making strategies, they're being built. And what worked last year, realistically isn't going to work this year. So I have found that a lot of the discourse by and for social media managers is often tactical. So it's like, how to prove your ROI, or mastering the best formats, or creating your content pillars. And I think it glosses over this more foundational, difficult to define layer of this role, which is creativity. So when we came up with this month's topic, my feeling was that the science behind creativity represents sort of two arms here. And one is that there's like systems and creative systems behind creative efforts. What do we do to keep them running? And then the other is that the sort of structure that we give our own creative process, how we maintain creativity. So I really want to hear from this stacked lineup of pros. I'm going to stop talking. And what I'll do here is we used to intro people in the past and we would tell you about them, but this is a new year and I think we should intro ourselves. So I'm going to start with Sophie, bring you on. And Sophie, I want you to give us, let's say, like 2 to 3 sentences about who you are and what you're, looking to achieve heading into 2026.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm like the biggest fan of Carmen. I'm the biggest fan of the Slate
No,
Queen,
no.
Zaria, Jason. I feel like I should be in the audience. Um, but I am Sophie. I run an online resource and community for people in and on social media called Pretty Little Marketer. Alongside that, I also work as a content creator slash influencer slash linked influencer, if you will.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is cool now, so it is cool to tell you that I live on LinkedIn. Started my business by accident 6 years ago this year as a student, and my big goal this year, or something I really love to do, is like have a word for the year. So my word this year is refine. I don't think
Mm,
you need to reinvent the wheel every
yeah,
year. Like what I'm doing right now is good and I'm good at it. I just want to
yeah,
be better at it.
yeah.
So you can expect everything I'm doing more and better.
Hmm.
So I'm in a happy
Refined.
little place.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really great way to think. I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, like you say, like be this reinvention. I've noticed a lot of this on social this month, people saying they're going to rebrand themselves. And I thought, I don't think we need to rebrand ourselves. I love the idea of refining. Yeah, amazing. Okay, Jason, you're up next. I want to hear a little bit about you and what you're looking to achieve in 2026. I almost said 2016. We ain't there.
I could rewind to 2016 and try that one. So my name is Jason Keath. I co-founder of Social Fresh. We are an agency and the original social media conference. We started in 2008. So I started working in social technically in 2005. I was one of the first people running ads on Facebook.
Oh,
This would be 4 years until it was called social media. So we've been doing this work for a while. It's still very exciting. I still love the creativity of the people that work in social media. There are now 1 million people around the world that work in social media, which we track every year. So that's a number I never really expected. But
mm,
yeah, we run an agency. We do creative work. We run a social media conference. Our next conference is in New York in March, and I'm an author of a book called The Case for More Bad Ideas. So I write and think about creativity a lot. So I'm excited about the talk today.
awesome. I love bad ideas. I have tons of them. Okay, Zaria, you're up next, and I would love to hear a little bit about you and what you're looking to achieve this year.
Hi, I'm Zaria. I'm currently the head of social at DoorDash, but I feel like a lot of people know me from my days at Duolingo. So recent move. So 2026 for me is really, I think, a lot about like making the creatives work around social versus having social work around the creatives. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's been a big ambition for mine to like see if I can make a more traditional brand social first. Because a lot of the time,
Mm,
like Duo was a smaller brand when I first started there. And it was a little bit easier in that sense. So this transition for me is really about like taking on the challenge of like, okay, how do we make something that maybe wasn't social verse and how do I do that and like kind of backtrack?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I guess this year I'm going to steal the word idea, Sophie, because now I'm going to manifest that.
Hmm.
I feel like my word is catalyze. I want to catalyze people to do cool things.
Ooh, I
Um,
love that. Catalyze. I think that's a like such an inspiring word. Yeah, I was telling Christina before about how like I'm not really like a big resolutions person, but like my one resolution this year is to not have get as many crumbs in my keyboard. So that's like where I'm shooting for this year. I don't know about y'all, but okay.
Your word
So
is crumb.
crumbs, less crumbs.
Big goals.
Yeah, my KPIs are really ambitious. Amazing. Okay, well, I have some more individual questions, but I'm going to start with just like a general one for the group. Anyone can take this one. But okay, my feeling here is that social media departments and brands at large do not function on creativity alone. They require like substantial scaffolding and systems in place to get that creativity out into the world. What are some of the unsexy systems you've developed to keep your creative practice alive?
Oh, I can take that because I feel like I've
Yeah,
actually been in such of the thick of it right now.
yeah,
I think the number like one thing that I think we forget a lot about social people is that like 30% of our job is like education.
yeah,
And I think we kind of run up against that. We're like, oh God, we have to explain it. But I've actually realized being more proactive about that kind of creates a runway.
mm,
So like the way that I've even set up our social team here is like, all right, like they want like the heavy hitter, always on kind of reactive moments. We have that. Then we also have like a part of the team that's really focused on like these longer proactive like campaigns, occasions moments. So there's like these two work streams running. And then also figuring out like a creative approval thing before
yeah,
like I'm very much like go for it like as long as it
yeah,
doesn't get canceled but like leadership was like what does that mean
yeah,
and so we kind of have like a charter actually on our team of like this is like when you tap into like approvals and like if XYZ doesn't respond in like an hour then you have the full liberty to like move forward with it. So I think actually creating these like team charter, team vision and like taking the time to like set that up early and then moving with it has been really effective versus like no one really knowing like the escalation process. Is there a process? Should there not be?
yeah,
And just like re-articulating that over and over, I think has been extremely helpful. But yeah, I think it's been an interesting ride to see like what do people
yeah.
actually from like higher ups really care about? How do we distill that down and still give the social team the leverage that they need to move?
Yeah. And I feel too like it's like, I mean, what you're describing to me sounds like somebody saying, like, yeah, you can be like an artist who's like, this is my way and this is my process. Or you can be somebody who's like, yeah, I also have to fit into like parameters of a job and a role and a team and all these things. So
Exactly.
yeah, like it feels good to be someone who just like sprays paint at a canvas, but we also have to like have order too.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's list building, and I'll give you two examples. And it sounds very basic, but I find most creative teams have a lot of rules of like how to rein in creativity, but not how to like improve creativity. So on the
Mm,
inspiration side, just most really creative people are list builders. Like I do it in my notes app. Like I have dozens and dozens of lists, some of them over 10 years old. Um, and specifically just like examples of great content. We all have bookmarks that we never go through and things like that. But the key to list building on the inspiration side is to come together on a regular basis with a group to review it. And if you're
yeah.
a solo person, maybe it's peers, maybe it can be people outside of social or outside of marketing. That's actually helpful sometimes. But monthly or quarterly, just having a system of, all right, we've got ideas we are constantly collecting, and if you're not, start collecting them. And you're essentially building these taxonomies of, your industry, your competitor set, your creative kind of goals, and really having it reviewed with people. And can we do these? What would it take to accomplish ideas like this? How would it fit for us? Like that's something a lot of teams don't do. You can bring agencies in to help with that, and they can do it for you if you don't have bandwidth. But I think that's a missing piece for a lot of teams. And then on the inside, what Zaria was talking about, I think having a red list is really good for approval process, meaning what are the two or three or four things that we really can never like, what's the third rail on the subway that you can never touch? What are those really where legal gets involved and it's really scared of, and having those very
Yeah.
clearly defined so that if you're touching one of those things on the red list, then it's maybe an additional person in the approval process. So
Yeah.
you go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2. But if it's not, giving people more creative freedom to test and really expand what they're trying to do on the content side.
Yeah. And I like that idea of like not just having, say, a creativity or like inspiration collection system, but then like a rhythm where you return to it. Because I think that that can be missing from a lot of our, like, we're great at being like, ooh, that sparked something. And then like, put it in a save folder or something. But it's like, do you come back to it? What's your process for like reviewing
It's
that or sort of
it's
like,
really not usable unless you come back to it and you have a system.
yeah. Yeah. My dad says you're not really reading until you're rereading. So take that. Yes. Okay. Sophie, do you have anything to add or I don't have to put
I
you on the spot.
do, if that
Yeah.
is so okay. So
Yes.
I'm a team of two now. I made my first hire in Q4 last year.
Ooh,
So
congrats.
PLM, my business now has an operations manager. Um, I always say I'm a creator first, a marketer second, and a business person like right to the end. So I'll
Yeah.
know how to run a business. Now still being a team of two, content is very much on me. So as a marketer, I'm a team of one. And I imagine approval processes have a lot of friction, but I feel like having no approval process brings its own challenges,
Hmm.
especially as a creative. Oh my goodness, I could do anything. I could post anything right now. I could launch
Yeah.
on any platform. I could spring off into any business arm I want. And especially for those of you building a personal brand where it's less involvement and more on you, I find that benchmarking what content should go out, where you should get creative to be really difficult. And I am launching our Substack next month, which is really exciting.
Yes.
But it's something I've been sat on for maybe 9, 10 months. Um, Really having to benchmark, like, why do I want to do this? Is it just me
Yeah.
that wants to do this?
Yeah.
And I think the big thing for me whenever I'm chasing new creative ideas is like, what is this doing that I'm not already doing? As a team
Yeah.
of one, it's so easy to silo into what excites me, what do I want to do? But if you want content tips, you can follow me on Instagram. If you want to know what's happening in social media, you can get my newsletter. So
Yeah.
whenever I'm adding new creative stacks to my list, new creative content, new creative ideas, is this adding something new? And I love
Yeah.
what you said, Jason, as well about, teams of one, smaller teams. If you don't have team members, talk to your peers. My boyfriend builds AI systems, but he could be a marketer with all of the content he reads and all the ideas I share. So I think having extra people outside of what you do to be like, hey, does this make sense? Would you like this? Do you understand
Yeah.
this?
Hmm.
Because yeah, it's tough doing it solo out here. Even you guys solo marketers as well, because I know there's many of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like to wrangle your creativity, you need to pretend that you have a leadership committee that's going to be drilling you on these things. So it's like you have to be like, okay, I'm just making my internal slide deck that I'm going to present to the exec team, and then that exec team is you. Um, great.
I
I
mean,
mean, I love. Let's go.
I was just gonna add everyone has a creative loop. So like the creative loop is solo to group, and it just keeps going
Mm,
solo to group, solo to group. That could be
mm,
an audience, that could be an editor if you're like a writer. It could be a team, approvals, what have you. But if it's not clear who your group is, you have to create that group. So it could be
yeah,
publishing stuff publicly, or it could be like a peer group. I know Sophie has a great big community to join. But create that loop for yourself because that's where things get refined the most.
mm, yeah. Loops, man. I need more loops to close. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I have a question here that I have for I had Sophie in mind, but I'm also happy to hear other perspectives here. I was thinking a lot about your daily output, which to me is like, it's obviously so prolific and quite inspiring, but also like terrifying that you're able to put out this much work. And I was sort of thinking about like when creative departments, even if that's like say a department of one or two, run smoothly, I think they can often appear effortless. Like this is just part of a system that has already existed for a long time. And I sort of want to know a little bit more about, to get a little more granular into your life and Pretty Little Marketer. And it's like when you are shipping this quantity and this cadence of content, what are like what is one tangible system that you are using to make like to attach all of your creativity or to put it into certain sort of file folders?
Good question. So, guys, for context, I have a daily newsletter for our members. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Thursday. I post twice a week on Instagram, on our PLM Instagram. I try and post every day on our PLM company LinkedIn. And I also try and post every day on my personal LinkedIn as well, because kind of Sophie is a brand in itself. I repurpose where I can, but I did a lot of reading at the back end of last year about like intent-based strategies, and we want different things from, we all know, we want different things from different platforms these days, and we have a big crossover audience. So repurposing can be, or just straight reposting can be tricky. So I'm like a social media times 10 ma manager, and I also run a business. So for context, it's a lot, and it feels a lot sometimes as well.
Yeah.
I know, like you said, Carmen, like it can look effortless, but you guys know better than everyone. Like one carousel takes a day, a reel takes 10 people getting involved, so it's rough
Yeah.
out here. But one thing to bear in mind, one, this is my full-time job, so I can do what you cannot because it's just me, and this is all I do. I get this pays
Yeah.
my rent, so I have a good
Yeah.
time. Um,
Yeah.
Something I did, and it was this time last year, we'd launched our membership. I ditched all my freelance clients, so I was kind of transitioning from freelancer into business owner, content creator. And I don't know if this is a controversial tip, but maybe, but I ditched our content pillars. I just chucked them right out. And maybe it was me. Maybe I just get content pillars wrong. Um, but something I do now and again, this likely won't work for everyone, is you know how you'd go to the gym each week and maybe you'd have like leg day, chest day, like you do two cardios a week, or if you're better than I, whatever that schedule looks like.
You
I
can tell I
now
lift a lot
almost,
of weight. So,
yeah,
yeah.
me too. I'm 5'1". I'm about this big. Um, but I almost now have a monthly checklist. So I know that on PLM Instagram, once a month, I do one brand breakdown. And it could be a carousel or a reel. And I can still get creative with that. It can be any brand I want, it can be any format I want. I know that on LinkedIn, Sophie's profile, twice a month, I'll do like a what's going on behind the scenes at PLM. So each profile, each platform has its own checklist, and sometimes they'll overlap, but knowing that, on Instagram, I need one brand breakdown a month, two top tips, one community post a month. Maybe then you can content pillar it up, or you can add your tags or whatever that looks like for you guys. But for me, just having like, I know that 8 posts a month, two of this, one is that.
Hmm.
It's not as squished as content pillars often made me feel. I
Yeah.
can still be creative. Um, I'm a process person. I need a list. So I love your tips, Jason. List
Yeah.
gal. Um, Checklist. Every month I do the same thing, but it looks different. And I interviewed John from Surreal for a webinar series we did last summer. He is so awesome, guys. And he shared the most basic tip, speeding up an approval process by using repeatable formats.
Mm.
And just this quote of repeatable formats really stuck with me. I was like, why don't I do that? It just makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, having a month on month, copy and paste the plan, change it a little bit. A lot of stress in there, a lot of notion. But I guess in like a really long nutshell, I just do the same thing every month, but different. And that's what works for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I also just feel like that's probably very emancipating to a lot of people to hear that, you know what, like you can function without content pillars. I think that some strategies and some business sizes would require them, but I also absolutely see how your system works. And yeah, I didn't use the word playbook very much before I joined the B2B SaaS world, but I sort of consider that a social playbook where it's less so based on pillars and it's more so based on like you say, repeatable formats, or it's like, hey, every Thursday I'm going to touch on this specific kind of post or in this specific platform. And I do think having those regularly recurring pieces in your calendar can take away a lot of that stress of feeling like every week you're walking to like, I got to reinvent the wheel. I got to figure out like what we're going to post and what we're going to act on. It's like, no, we're going to act on the same things and we're going to, like you said, like refine, refine, refine. So I think that's excellent. I don't know, Zaria or Jason, if you feel any more moved by this question.
Yeah, I think there is like, and it kind of reminds me too about like sometimes reposting old content from like even 2 years ago and resurfacing and bringing it up will get you just as much engagement again. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of simplicity too that sometimes we overcomplicate things with that we don't need to do. And it can really just be something as simple as, hey, this format did really well 2 years ago. Let's bring it back and maybe reiterate it on just a tiny bit, but like, why not keep repeating it? I know like at Duolingo, like another thing that we did also was like ownable UI. So like the lesson screen was like a great opportunity to like keep jumping into cultural conversation. So like going from a very tech focus, but like at DoorDash, it's like, okay, like the driver dash your DMs is like a really common thing that people share. Like, how do we use that as UI, as a template to keep reiterating on you culturally reactive things? So I really resonate with what you're saying, Sophie. And like, I think there's so many opportunities to just do that.
Yeah. And I think that people might hear template and be like, oh, I don't think a template is creative when it's like, of course it is. You know, like a template, like I think we can be more creative sometimes when we give ourselves some like parameters that we have to work
Yeah.
within. And of course, you know, you could have endless, you know, creative templates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, I sort of like drummed up this question for you, but I was thinking about how many of us have held a variety of creative jobs throughout our careers, or just a variety of jobs that require creativity, even if they're not considered creative roles. And yet we almost never teach creativity. This was something you brought up when we had chatted before. And it started to make me think like, okay, is creativity a muscle? Is it a finite resource? I don't truthfully think that it is a finite resource, but you know, it's a good question to pose. How do we become more creative? You had such interesting ideas around this, and I would love to hear you. I mean, basically, I just want you to share with our guests some of the things that we had chatted about around honing creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I love the topic. I think if you're lucky enough to be in an agency that has a creative process that they teach, that's probably one of the most creative places you could work as an agency, and it's still pretty rare. I've worked in probably a dozen agencies, like as an employee or as a consultant over the years, and none of them had a creative process they taught. Um, Even in art school, we teach like how to paint or sculpt. But when I got my art degree, no one ever taught me how to come up with ideas. So like we just don't teach it even in the most creative spaces. Um, so like the simple framework I give people is if you become an expert in something, that is actually really helpful to be more creative. It could be social media, it could be something else completely different. It could be the industry you're in or the business you're running. And then you kind of have to ask a question of the universe. So for a lot of content creators, it's like, what's the next video we produce? Like, what's the next content template? What's the next tweet? What's the next LinkedIn post? Like, that's the constant ask, the repeated creative challenge that you have. That's your ask of the universe. If you're a painter, if you're Van Gogh, you're constantly looking for melting clocks or melting cheese or, inspiration that, is more abstract for painting ideas, right? And then to bridge the gap between that question and your expertise, you're just living your life. And that honestly is the piece that we all forget, which is kind of brushing up against life. How are you inspiring yourself on a regular basis? And it's hard to do, but you're probably already doing it in many ways. The things that make people most creative are coming into contact with like new and interesting things and new and interesting people. So it's like reading books, magazines, blogs, newsletters that are outside of your normal scope, outside of your industry. Um, Having creative friends, like you're as creative as the five people that you spend time with. And if those people are not doing creative work, then find people. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of friends, but find people
Drama.
that you can like be inspired by to spend time with. That could mean joining a club, joining an online community, going to conferences is really great. I mean, I get some of my best ideas when I'm in person. I go to a lot of marketing conferences. I speak at a lot of conferences, but like those hallway conversations, people are excited to learn. There's a lot to talk about, and you just get a lot of ideas. There's people kind of bringing their best insights at events. So, like if you're learning new languages, if you're traveling, these are new experiences, these are new data points. Those are the things that are like brushing up against life and kind of bridging the gap between your expertise and the ask of the universe. And I know that's like a weird kind of triangle to not have a visual for, but essentially just find new, always have a very specific thing you're looking for ideas around and define it and find new experiences in the world and new people to spend time with that inspire you.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously, I think like communities and private communities online are big, and people tend to think of them as this like, I don't know, networking play where it's like, okay, I'll have like people in my private network, and then if I need a job, this is going to make getting a job easier. And I feel like it's such a like an economical, transactional kind of way that we think about communities when really like, yeah, the point of a community is to enjoy the company of other people and ideally like feel inspired by them and then inspire them too. And I think that like we probably all could do a better job of seeking community in that way, in like a less transactional way. And I think I mean, I, like every other bee on the internet, have been reading this recent article from I think it was in, well, no, it was in the Cut, the one about like in 2026, we're friction maxing, you know, and it's like, I think that there's been all sorts of discourse about this article. Some people are like, oh, this is so pathetic that we have to add friction into our lives. And other people are like, oh my God, this is like the gospel. But I mean, I think there's a core principle there that anyone in a creative field could adopt. And it's that like, in this age of streamlined workflows and lots of tools and ways to make your life frictionless, like you're probably going to have to go out of your way to find inspiration and add a little bit more struggle or something to your lives. And I do think sometimes the struggle that, like, speaking for myself here, that I should put in my life a little more is like getting out with people and putting myself out there and not just like going into my little information bubble on the internet where I get everything that I like to read. And, you know, it's like I need to be out there with people who are like challenging my ideas. And okay, I'm going to stop talking in just a moment, but I will also say, like, I find LinkedIn to be, I love it, but it's also like nobody challenges me on my ideas on LinkedIn. You know, no matter what I post, people are like, you're incredible, that's amazing. And like, part of my goal this year is to spend more time on other platforms where maybe even trolls are challenging me, but it's like where I'm in circles where people aren't just patting me on the back, where I'm like in communities where people are like, hey, I actually think I'm gonna call you on this or something, or like, I don't think your research here is sound. And that's like the friction that I'm trying to bring in for 2026. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So if you want to troll me over on LinkedIn, go for it, team. Should be careful. I can hear Christina laughing. I should be careful what I wish for, but any other thoughts on that before we roll forward?
Just
No. Okay.
yeah, a practical thing that I used to do. I don't think it exists. I haven't seen it in a while. YouTube used to have like a trending page and it'd have like the top 50 videos. And back in the day when that did exist, again, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. And it started when I was back at uni. I used to watch the number one video on YouTube every day with my breakfast. Oh my goodness, guys, YouTube is a bundle of fun. And some days I was watching the most random things in the whole entire world. But and like you were saying, Carmen, like I love reading and I love affirming what I already believe because it makes me feel better. But there's so much content out there. And I still do it often, you know, when you get your suggestions on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'm in my Substack era right now, and there was a really good I wish I could remember who it was by, but I felt so called out by it. There was a post about how like why do marketers always share predictions when you can't predict anything, like just stop. And I was like, God, I do this all. This is my whole job. I do this all the time. And essentially the message was like about repositioning it to forecasting and how we should talk about looking ahead and how we should treat our thoughts for the next step. And I feel like it changed my thoughts on like how I write everything and everything I do. But yeah, I know just, you know, reading more, consuming more, it's not fun, it's not easy. But yeah, for me, YouTube or like Substack, where I'm served new, good, but different content.
Yeah.
I feel like the algorithms aren't just serving me what I already watch, like somewhere like TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah.
So yeah, YouTube trending page, if that still exists for you guys, that would be my recommendation. But yeah, we don't
Yeah.
get out there. We don't consume enough new stuff, right? I
It's
need to
giving
do
me the
that more.
idea that like it's almost like you should make a quota for yourself or your social team where like you have to cultivate like together a burner account that has a way different algorithm than your own or something like that. And then like everyone has to look at the burner account for like I don't know, 20 minutes a day and like try to make it an algorithm that's so separate from your own. But yeah, I mean, interesting.
We do creative trends reports for clients where we show them like what's trending each quarter, and we
Yeah.
have several burner accounts specifically for that. Because originally it was
Yeah.
just like what I was coming across, and then like a couple of our strategists what they were coming across. But we realized like we needed unique perspectives and building, you know, algorithms that actually feed perspectives was challenging, but it's possible.
Totally. I recently started an Instagram account. Wow, humbling. And after a long time of just sort of not really wanting to be on Instagram personally, and I gotta say, it's an emancipating experience to start an account from zero. The account doesn't know anything that you like, and you just kind of leave everything behind. And I don't know, I would 10 out of 10 recommend. But okay, Zaria, I have a question that I marked for you, which is that so people often, I think, envision creatives as like graphic designers or like this painter we were talking about before that's like standing in front of their canvas and they're like sort of this alternative person or something like that is moved by the moment and speaks with paint. But obviously, like, you know, creativity takes many forms and comes from many places. And I want to know, like, what do you attribute as your sources? You've talked about having like a non-traditional career path. Like, what do you attribute as your sources of creativity, and how have you honed your creative practice over the span of your career?
Yeah, I think what's like funny is like, so when I first started in college, I was like, I'm gonna do pre-med and be a doctor. Ew, couldn't do that. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna be an art director because they're like so cool. I like details drive me insane. I do not know how art directors stare at Photoshop all day. Like truly, like the God's favorite. I can't do it. And I realized I was like, okay, I really like finding like I feel like in another life I would be like a director where it's like okay I can think through these like funny stories and concepts but like the video editing part of it and like the nitty gritty is like what gets to me, so how do I like manage that? And I realized it actually came down to this idea of like there's actually no quick way to the solution, and I think a lot of the times especially in social we're like oh, like we'll just like we'll learn about every single topic possible because we have two or three videos, you know, like the TikTok doctor, all of this. And I feel like one of the most humbling things, I think I saw this like quote somewhere, but it was like about like how like the athlete knows like strength comes from like the 10,000th repetition. Or like the parent knows that like trust is built through like every single night reading a book to your kid
Mm,
before they go to bed and like when they're 6 months old and have nothing to trust you with, but eventually like years later. And I think we've got into this like idea that like creativity needs to come rapid, it needs to come fast, it needs to be viral, but a lot of it is actually bundled with so much failure. Like my failures at Duolingo taught me far more than like my
mm,
successes. Like even then, like that is like the highlights of like, holy shit, when I got us canceled, now I understand like where you don't cross the line. Or like,
yeah,
oh my God, like people want to see an entire like social ecosystem. I just wanted to post 3 videos. How do I go back and explain this to someone who like think social is like a cute family vacation photo on Instagram? And so like,
yeah.
and I know that sounds cheesy because I know we always say like fail harder. And then everyone's like, okay, but where are the results? But I think like actually reflecting on those failures in ways that can be like strategic strongholds for you in the future are actually more important for your own personal growth as a
Mm,
creative than maybe like the brand's growth.
yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
like that is like I don't know. I think we just have gotten really lost in like fast learning and fast execution and fast testing and experimenting, which is important. But like having that recognition that like a lot of it is just like repetition and knowing that like, I don't know, like failing beautifully and repeatedly teaches you something far more than constantly having a viral success. And like I think even now I kind of call it like my flop era. Like
Mm,
I'm building DoorDash from the ground up with social. I'm like dealing with people who've never like really understood as adept like the power of organic versus coming from a place where organic social was everything. So like
yeah.
figuring out how to like navigate that has been like so instrumental to my growth. And so I almost see like being my creativity is less so about the executing, but like how do I translate this? How do I code switch it? How do I make it into something that people want to engage with, get excited about, and get them amped on like a new vision? I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers your question, but
No, I think it totally does. And I feel like the concept of reps is really important. We were having this discussion, me and the two Christinas, Christina squared. And I was saying like, you know, I feel like so much of I mean, I live on LinkedIn, so my brain's a little bit skewed there, but there's so much sensationalism about like, look at this incredible campaign. And it's like, you know, like Skims just dropped their like whatever. I don't know if I'm allowed to say these words, but like, you know, the never mind. Okay. They dropped a certain line of underwear. I think we all know the ones I'm talking about. And everyone's like, oh wow, they're really pushing the boundaries and everything. And I'm thinking like, that's not the hard part of social media. The hard part of
yeah.
social media is showing up day after day, week after week, and shipping content. You know, it's not coming up with a big splashy campaign when you're given 100K for budget on this campaign. You know what I mean? Like anybody could make a good campaign with 100K, you know, or anybody could make a good campaign with a big fat budget. It's like the hard part of social is being like just producing and producing and producing and like you said at the beginning, Zaria, like educating people and getting people on board with you and like collaborating between all the teams and like it's the daily grind. That's what's
Yeah.
hard about social, the daily grind of creativity. And I don't mean to be pessimistic to talk about creativity as a grind, but of course it can be, you know? And
It's
I just,
work.
Yeah.
yes, of course, like it is so much work. And um I just love the sort of like symbol of repetitions, you know, and how many repetitions it takes to get good or bad or fail or whatever, or learn from your failures. Because probably the first time you fail, you're actually not learning from it. You're just feeling wounded and then like, you know, going home and crying or something like that. Not speaking from experience. But I think that yeah, I mean, definitely I love the idea of embracing a flop era, you know, and not being resistant to that. And we've shipped a few pieces of content recently where you know, Christina said to me, like, you think we should post this? Like, do you think it's going to do well? And I said to her, I will 100% back you up no matter how this performs. I think we should try this. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work and we'll learn a ton. But I would rather be a team that's flopping and succeeding than a team that just has some like, you know, well-timed successes. Like, I think we need to show that we're trying things and maybe we didn't hit the mark. And that's like a sign
It's
of some
also
sort
like
of,
so hard because I feel like working in social, your performance review is just like there for
yeah,
everyone to see, right? We're like an engineer or even someone else in marketing that's like focusing on something else, like the metrics and the likes and engagements don't like it just doesn't translate to the point where like anybody can look and see and be like,
yeah,
I don't know, that was only like 10 likes versus any other career, right? That like doesn't really
yes,
have their performance review on blast.
yeah,
So it's hard to be like, that's just one part of the
yeah.
entire performance review. And remembering that like not everyone's going to have home runs every single time they do
A
anything in
hundred
any career.
percent. 100%. I would love to show likes on my former accountant's work. You know, like the accountant I
Yeah.
used to have to work with, that guy, 0 likes. Okay. So like I feel like if my yeah, I'm just saying, I think we could stand to give other people impressions and likes and see how well they do because I think we'd all experience a nice old flop era. I'm like new to this, but have to quickly check in with Christina. Do you want me to ask a question from the audience at any point right now? Okay, we're gonna get to it in a couple of minutes.
Great.
Just want everyone to know that this is a well-oiled machine, and I've done this a million times, so I know what I am doing. Okay, I'm gonna have maybe one more general question, and then we'll maybe launch into some AMAs from the audience. But I'm kind of torn. I have two. We'll see if we can get through two. So, what I would say is, what are some of the misconceptions around creativity, especially in social, that you'd want to dispel? For my part, I find it really annoying that people always assume content is spontaneous. Like, oh, we just like came up with this. And I'm like, no, that was orchestrated. That took 4 people and 3 weeks to make that look like it was just like a spur of the moment thing. So, curious to hear from you. This can be more like, it doesn't have to be that deep, but like, what is a misconception around creativity that you would love to be like, nah?
I mean, I wrote a book called More Bad Ideas. So like the thing for me is that we always so there's like this traditional thing that happens in brainstorm meetings, which is there's no such thing as bad ideas. When people say that to kind of like get rid of black hatting, people can say what they want to get good ideas out, but that's not what happens. Like the pressure on people to give good ideas is like the peer pressure is very strong, especially a lot of corporate environments. So you have to really invite bad ideas into your process, and bad ideas are
Mm,
essential to the creative process. You have to require them. You have to have a culture that invests in it, expects it, and ask what if questions when they're brought up. Not like you can't say that's a bad idea or that won't work because of. You have to ask like what would have to be true for that idea that you just brought forward to work, right? And
mhm, mhm.
that culture is where a lot of great ideas make it through an approval process or make it through a corporate structure. Um, so I'm a big believer in requiring bad ideas, even if it's you yourself starting a creative process, and requiring them of yourself, like 10 minutes writing 25 bad ideas down. It's actually hard the first couple of times because humans try to come up with the best bad ideas. Like,
Mm.
is that a bad idea? Is that bad enough? Like you will go through that process. But just stay at it a couple of times and it becomes easier. But it's very, I mean, you get a lot of stuff down on the page. get a lot of stuff off the top of your head, and it's a momentum builder. So I think
Mm.
that's an important thing. And finding your version of that. There's lots of ways to start a brainstorming process on your own or in a group, and finding the tools that help you get started faster. And that's one that's worked for a lot of people.
Hmm. I like that. It's like a flop quota. You got to hit your flop quota this quarter or else.
Scale, like you were just talking about scale, right? Scale and iteration are really where all kind of the greatest ideas come from.
This might be kind of basics, but I always like have to remind myself that like creativity is inherently subjective. And just like I think that is like sometimes when you hear feedback from like a higher up or someone who's above you, like we don't think that's hitting the mark. I think sometimes it actually does. You need
Mm.
to decipher for yourself what's blocking and what's non-blocking feedback, obviously within like the realms of
Yeah.
corporate and stuff. But like creativity is super subjective. Like there can be a like there's been TikToks that I like hated that I had to post and it like went the most viral. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And stuff that I loved and I had so much fun creating and ideating and making didn't perform as well, didn't like get all the metrics, but like it still got like some like recognition or whatever. And it's like maybe it was less, but I think reminding yourself that creativity is still very subjective. And even if you're able to like resonate with one person, that's one more person than you were able to resonate the day
Hmm.
before. And
Hmm.
it sounds small, but like even like 400 likes, guys, like think about 400 people laughing at you. Like
Yeah.
that's like stand-up comedian's dream. And so I
Yeah.
think like that is kind of how I always kind of bring myself back of like maybe just because my boss is saying it's a bad idea, it's not a bad idea. And maybe just because you're saying it's a good idea, it's not a good idea. And like
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to look at creativity. There's not like one set formula.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Love. Love.
I agree. I had similar thoughts in mind, and one thing that I have also, I'm creative, but I'm a very systematic person. Like everything I do, I'm moving house right now. And like every room has a checklist. I've got a whole plan for tomorrow, and anytime I approach a business idea, I've got like a list. And the way I plan my content, I literally have a checklist on Notion. And I hate how, especially movies portray creatives like they're the people that turn up late, like their shirt's not tucked
Mm.
in, like their glasses are wonky, like we have messy, crazy hair, like we're
Yeah.
like these
I'm so
like
creative.
yeah, like disorganized like dreamers, like they have big ideas that they will never achieve. But like exactly to what Zaria was saying, like, well, what is creativity and what is it
Mm.
to you? Because
Yeah.
like what it is to me, like to me, it's making a list. Like I'm my most creative when I'm organizing my ideas and I'm filing
Mm.
them away and I'm putting them in my calendar. But then to other people, maybe they are the movie definition of disorganized dreamer, and you've got your post-its everywhere, notes everywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was at Adobe Max in November last year in LA, and I remember being there and I was like, oh my God, everyone's so creative. This is so cool. And I was at one of the after parties and I was talking to a woman who's like a street artist, and another lady was a photographer, and another one was a videographer. And I was like, oh, like I wish I was creative like you guys. And this woman was like, nope, like your creativity is not about your output. And that really stuck with me. So yeah, everything you're saying, Zaria, I have a hard time seeing myself as a creative or someone who is creative, but it's so much more than just what you do and the tools in your hands. And yeah, it's tricky, right?
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
creativity hard and scary when it really shouldn't be?
It's also like, I mean, there's like a whole nother slew of questions there, but like, why is that person trying so hard to show you outwardly that they're creative? Like, is there something there where we're like performing creativity or something? But okay, we are at 10:50, which means we're right on time. I'm getting two thumbs up over here from my gal to head into some audience questions. So do I just announce them by name and they go off mic? Yeah, word up. Okay, so Christina sent me a little list. I think we've got Lenara. Lenara, do you want to go off mute and ask your question?
Hi, yeah. It's very nice to meet you guys and so inspiring to hear everybody's advice. My question is my problem was, we were talking about getting inspired and reading and, consuming as much content as we possibly can. But my problem is that there's so much content out there that I sometimes feel kind of too overwhelmed. And I'm kind of similar to Sophie in a sense of like organization. I like having a plan. I like having, a routine. And while I do like spending like 30 minutes on LinkedIn, sometimes I feel like I'm not keeping up with all the creative stuff that people are doing out there. And like all of you are so talented, and there are so many other marketers that are doing so many cool things that I'm like, I'm not doing enough. So, how do you systematize this type of like inspiration time? Is there like some sort of tip or a routine? Like I spend like this much time on LinkedIn, this much time on, I don't know, Substack. Just wanted to hear if there's like an approach that you guys take.
Linara, you are talented and amazing too. It's not just us because we are up here, and I get that. It's my job to like output so other people have a source, and like that's hard in itself. And my best tip for you, and I'm interested to hear what other guys will say on this too, is just start with one. You don't need half an hour on LinkedIn to read our rubbish, or you don't need to scroll through news articles to find what you're looking for. Just start with one place. And the easiest way for me to get inspiration is for it to make it come to me. So I know that we've talked a lot about Substack, and I'm in my Substack area, guys. Silence Brand, I know a few guys recommended in the chat by a few amazing marketers, is an amazing place to start. Silence Brand is the Substack, and they like round up, I think once or twice a week, like what's been happening online, and it's not all the hot stuff. It's like some of the niche bits, and like they have really good article recommendations as well. And the best thing about that is if you sign up, it'll be emailed to you whenever they do share a post. So you're not wasting your time sifting through. You just have great stuff coming to you. But everything you do is already enough. You don't need inspiration to be better, but if you are hunting for sources, make it come to you and start with one place. And yeah, Silence Brand, we've got a lot of love for those guys in the chat as well. It's a really good one, but you are great. You are great without it, I promise.
One of the things we do, like we talked about burner accounts, you can do this with your personal account, but it may make sense to do it with a new account. Um, I find TikTok is a great source. Like I probably check 4 channels, but I agree you can start with one. I find TikTok is where creators really do the most divergent stuff first. It used to be Twitter and maybe YouTube, and it's definitely now TikTok. So one thing, and I answered this in the chat already, but we created a TikTok account of just our favorite unique creators, and we probably followed maybe, I don't know, 40 or 50 creators. I would start keeping a list of creators you like that are trying new things that you're inspired by, even if it's not like tangential to your industry or work. I think adding them to a list, following them, and making that algorithm on TikTok work for you, because TikTok will then take those examples and feed you people like that, feed you other weird and interesting and talented creators. And I think that's a great source. And again, we mentioned this before, but following up on any list keeping, any bookmarking you're doing, having an appointment for yourself or for your team to revisit that, ask questions about it, and challenge yourself to use that content on a regular basis.
Something that like I did, so like when I first started at Duolingo, I actually did not know much about the marketing world at all, and like didn't really know that all this like ecosystem, marketing, Twitter, and all that existed really. And something that I always found to be really fun and interesting, and I still try to do, is like fandoms I think are huge, and like just choosing one fandom to just like really explore. I've been recently into the woman solo divers of Jeju Island in Korea. And like there's like documentaries, there's books, there's things. And like I actually find memoirs to be very helpful resources of creativity because of like how someone tells their story for you to be engaged without sounding self-centered, I think is actually a very good template for us as like brands of like how do we get people engaged in our story without sounding like up our own butts. And some memoirs are great and some suck, and you can figure out kind of like the connective tissue there. And so while it's not necessarily like marketing what other marketers are doing, I think it's a really good template for storytelling. And then exploring that fandom is almost seeing how those communities interact with that storytelling. And it can be fandoms of anything. Like people are crazy fans from like Game of Thrones to like K-pop to like foodies to like all these different niches. And just seeing how they interact, I think is actually quite replicable in the content that we can create. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. And it's just like not having every piece of content you consume have to be about like how can I use, like how can this be a news source? It's like, yeah, memoir isn't a news source, but it's like informs the way you see the world and the way you tell a story and all of that. Okay, I'm gonna race to the next question, which is Ian, and ideally fit in at least one more. Hi, Ian. Are you there? I feel like you're there. I can see you. Hmm. Next one? Okay. Bye, Ian. We asked you. Okay, next one is Juliana.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, yeah.
Thank you. So I had a question. I know that like there's probably one of the most familiar questions we get in our industry is how can we advocate for social media in our businesses with the higher ups? How can we get more resources and all of that kind of stuff? And typically the answer kind of is, well, we need to learn how to bridge the gap between social language and business language. But then it kind of stops there. So I was curious if you guys have any like one how deeper in terms of like language that you have found that really helps bridge that gap between social speak and business speak so that we're really kind of talking about the same thing across teams.
I mean, the way like I have to convince people a lot because we're an agency and we have clients, and we've also had clients that are the social teams and tried to convince, we worked with Cisco on something recently, and it was a very corporate environment. Um, I I try to frame it as an attention problem typically. Like every social team has different goals. Some teams for B2B are trying to actually get sales. Some people are trying to um, have a larger share of voice. Sometimes it's just a community social listening scenario, support scenario. But all of that is improved by attention if you're able to scale audience. And I think most business people understand that. Like they like big numbers. Um, and then we just give case studies of these are people that have taken creative risk and got huge audiences from it. And I think finding those case studies that are similar enough to your industry, that are related somehow to that you can, it is a bridge. Like it can't be everybody's Red Bull if you're working and selling napkins or selling software, right? So you have to find stuff that's closer to that. But there are today more creative examples to use than ever. And I think there's a lot of case studies out there. And that, I mean, case studies are the biggest thing that can convince people. And that's where we typically focus and start. Um, I did post a list. We have a make list that we use, that we've defined at Social Fresh, which is how to actually convince people to give you more creative risk taking ability. And it's about building relationships, actually making it fun, finding case studies. So check that out in the answers of the Q&A. But the biggest piece of that, I think, is the case studies.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to pass it to Christina. She has a few final things to get through, but I also just want to say an enormous thank you to everyone. I know it's always, we're always so grateful when people take time out and devote it to a webinar, both the speakers and everyone who attended and asked questions. Christina has a few little final remarks and then.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. The chat was amazing. It was such a good conversation. The panelists had so much to say. We'll definitely do a recap on this for sure. I also wanted to point out there's a lot of amazing questions in the question box. So I want to link a specific hotline that we have as Slate. We're calling it a hotline for now, but feel free to ask any of the questions that we didn't get to in this link that I just posted in the chat. We'll be posting Substacks, obviously, with answers to questions from people who are curious about things. So that's the place to submit any questions you have. We have a Substack, subscribe there. It's going to be awesome and it's going to come out weekly. Also want to link to our next conversation. Next month, we are having an awesome conversation with Rachel Carton and a few other panelists. It's going to be such a good one. It's all about newsletters and Substacks and everything that we've been talking about today. So feel free to register early there. Okay, I am going to do our little giveaway really quickly. If you're here and you asked a question, I'm going to share my screen if I can figure out how to do that right now, because as much as I use Zoom, I'm such like a noob sometimes, you know? Okay, here we are. All right, here we go. I am going to spin that wheel, move that bus. Anyone get that reference? Maybe just me. Okay, the winner of the t-shirt or gift card is Sylvia. Sylvia, message me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, and I'll make sure to coordinate that with you. Okay, let me stop sharing here once I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen. I can't do this. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Here we go. Okay, and the last thing I have to say is we are so excited. Join our social club. We'll be continuing the conversation there. We love everybody in our social club Slack community. It's a place where social pros connect. And we just love having conversations over there, especially since we have these monthly, but this is a place to kind of connect when we don't have a webinar or a conversation. Thank you so much to all our panelists. It was great to have y'all. Follow them on LinkedIn. Jason, there's an awesome Social Fresh conference, and obviously Sophie and Zaria have awesome newsletters, so subscribe to those, and we will see you all next month. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.